the notion of the doer is based upon the assumption that there is a limited entity, a separate human being, who has the freedom to decide. And these decisions come as thoughts in most cases. Sometimes it's just an immediate reaction without thought. But in the case of an immediate reaction without thoughts, we understand that it was a mechanism in the body that triggered it. For instance, if you play tennis and you're at the net and your opponent is very close to you and just hits a ball and you're able to hit a winner, you cannot say, I decided to hit this winner. You see what I mean? It just happened. Why? Because the body has been trained, the machine has been programmed, and then given a certain input, stimulus, it has worked properly and fulfilled the mission, so to speak. But for most decisions, that is not the case. They are deliberate decisions. We think about them, and then at some point it seems that we say, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. The problem with this is that it is predicated upon the belief that we choose our thoughts, that we have free thinkers, that our thoughts are not programmed, conditioned in any way. And if we investigate our experience of the genesis of thoughts, how thoughts arise, we see that they come in us unexpectedly. We don't know what the next thought is going to be, any more than we don't know what the make of the next car which is going to drive by us. So we don't know. We can say the brain is a factory of thoughts, but if we say the brain is a factory of thoughts, the brain is not independent. It's part of the body, but the body itself is not independent. It's part of the biosphere, and the biosphere is part of the planetary system, whatever, which is part in turn of the universe. In fact, any thought that comes is a cosmic event. That's the truth. That's the truth that we don't want to face. Because when we face this truth, we realize that as a separate entity we have no freedom. So we have the choice then. We have two options. Either we stick to our gun and keep believing that we are this separate entity with no freedom whatsoever, which is a very, very difficult place to be in. Or the alternate possibility, after all, we will not be a limited entity, in which case freedom is possible. Freedom is possible only if we are not a limited entity. Freedom is possible only if we are a universal entity, or to be more precise, the universal entity. Because then whatever happens is the movement of this universal entity. It's how this universal entity moves. In addition, this universal entity is not mineral. That would be the materialist hypothesis. No, it has awareness as an attribute. It has intelligence as an attribute. If there are sentient beings and intelligent beings, or beings exhibiting some form of intelligence, it means that their reality is conscious and intelligent. When I say a universal freedom, it's a real freedom of this universal entity which we are, which is alive and lives through all of the galaxies.
And what is it then which makes people claim ownership to their thoughts or deeds or anything? Is it a thought?
It's an afterthought.
Afterthought, yeah.
It's an afterthought that says, I was the thinker of this thought. But the separate, the limited thinker of the thought exists only as this afterthought. That's how it maintains itself. But in fact, the limited thinker of the thought was not present during the thought. When the thought was present, there was only this thinking. Jean Klein compared the limited thinker with a clown in the circus who takes a bow to take the applause that was directed to the ballerina who had performed. So, in fact, the clown didn't dance, right? And the thinker thought, didn't think. It is universe that thinks through all the thinking beings. But the thinking beings, even to say that is a misnomer, because there is only one thinker, which is the universe. There are no thinking beings. The allegedly thinking beings are simply instruments used by the universal thinker.